canopy of atmospheric jungle resonates with whispers of innovation, as every rustle and chirp becomes a note in the symphony of change, inviting humanity to sway with the cadence of progress.
Okay, so I'm back with another Atmospheric Jungle series, and in this one I'm going to approach things a little bit differently from last time. So I thought a really good place to start would be to go over some of the essential ingredients we see in this type of jungle, and then in the next couple of vids we're going to delve a little bit deeper into some of the specifics.
Take me far away.
So the tune you heard in the intro there and the one we're going to be going over today is actually getting released on a tape compilation being put together very kindly by Arcologies. And this is really just a bit of fun and a throwback to the old mixtapes of the early 2000s and the 90s. This compilation is featuring a bunch of great jungle producers specifically making this old school style of jungle, such as Lena, Submotion, Eshatron, Mark Renton, Arcologies, IJO, Human Synthetics, Thought Forms, and of course myself. For anyone looking to learn more about this specific style of old school jungle, I think this is a really great opportunity for me to highlight some of my favourite producers who are also putting great stuff out on YouTube. Arcologies has an amazing ability to consistently put out quality tunes, and he has a very distinctive old school style with lots of hardware taking main stage, such as his war chest of analog mixers, Akai's, Emus and Yamahas. He also has a few great renoise production vids that are worth checking out. Human Synthetics, who is not only an incredibly talented producer, but someone who is steadily becoming a good friend, has another wicked channel I would strongly recommend checking out. He's highly musical with bucket loads of technical knowledge and able specifics to pick up on, so go catch him every Wednesday on his weekly live streams. Thought Forms has been making some of my favourite jungle videos to tune into lately and is always bang on with his example tunes and walkthroughs. He absolutely nails that old school sound, and I've been happy to see his content continue to blow up over the last year or so. IJO's channel is another fantastic place to find some proper raw old school jungle Akai S1000 production vids. I know there was a time when he was thinking about stepping back from the channel, and I for one am really happy that he's decided to keep putting out vids. If anyone wants a super authentic look back to the 90s production style, I would strongly recommend checking out his content. Finally, Mark Renton has some amazing insights into making jungle, and I especially love his use of Electron products as well as the MPC 2000. I can also see he's just released a video on Atmospheric Jungle as well, so definitely another channel worth checking out. One last special mention goes out to Chris the Scientist, who in a relatively short amount of time has managed to absolutely nail the YouTube algorithm and produces superbly edited, highly engaging jungle videos. Okay, so let's start talking about the essential ingredients in this type of jungle, and I think the most obvious place to start is with the atmospheric bed, as this is often what the whole track is built around. So the second most important thing is to have a rolling drum groove, and unlike other types of drum and bass like neuro or drum funk, where it's all about having kind of crazy variations and throwing in lots of effects and things like that, this is actually just more about having the drums just steadily roll along the whole way through the tune. And obviously we're going to do little fills and bits of variation, but it's really about getting a core groove going. Now, I was heavily inspired for this tune by this amazing old school jungle track by Earl Grey called My Soul is on Ice, And in his song, he has some of the best drum rolling grooves I've ever heard, and it's especially the shuffle is so satisfying in his break. And I did my best to emulate this and just based a lot of my ideas for my break specifically around this track, so I'll give you a little demo of it now. Even though I've obviously used a different break to his song and I haven't copied his entirely, what I did specifically take a lot of inspiration from was the shuffles, and this in drum and bass is probably one of the most essential things you need to learn about you getting the drums right. And what it is it's this hi-hat and ghost snare combination. And where the ghost snare comes is almost always on the offbeat. And you can copy this. If I just highlight this, you can move this ghost snare around to lots of different places, always on this offbeat. So I'm looking and I'm kind of going against where these hits are. And if I play this now, you'll hear it's added all the shuffle. And you can keep going like that. So it's actually quite simple. It's about putting this ghost snare on the offbeat. Now, what is hard is getting a really good ghost snare tone. And for this track, I actually made this from my original snare in the break. And a few tricks you can do is quite often it's not as punchy. So you have to pull down a little bit of the attack out of the sound and then obviously lower it in level quite a lot. And I also changed the decay, so make it a little bit snappier and shorter, a little bit less punchy so it's got less knock, and then also EQing it slightly differently to make it work as well. And it's a little bit of a science and a trial and error process until you get the right tone for the ghost snare. Besides that, I think it's really about programming a longer break passage, and here I think I did a 16 bar passage which was completely unique across its entirety, and so you don't have this like repetition of a 4-bar loop repeating over and over again. And once you have that 16 bar, you then add little bits of fills and embellishments as the track progresses. And one last thing regarding the drums is actually in this stripped back section here, and this is another really common passage we see in this type of jungle. And what it is where you actually pull out a lot of the atmospheric bed of the tune and you just have your drums and bass mainly going with some effects. And here it's a bit different. Here it actually is a really good opportunity to mess around with your break a little bit more and be a bit more adventurous with your programming and go a bit wilder. And so I'll show you this section now as well. Alongside the main drum groove, it's also quite often to have some drum layers in to add interest and also some percussion elements. And in this tune, not only do I have the kind of main break going, but I have a few other breaks I've got backing it up and just adding a little bit of energy. So it's actually not super audible when you're listening to them together, and I've really copied the groove from the first one into the second one. But the main idea is just to add more energy to those sections. I needed to just pick the tune up a little bit. And so in that light, I've also got a tambourine loop I bring in. And there's also a open hi-hat layer. And a tambourine by itself. I've also got crashes. So if I start to bring everything behind the drums in, I've got some effects here, some kind of drum effects as well. And some bongos, some delayed bongos with these all have a dotted 8th note delay, which is my favorite delay to use on percussion, is a dotted 8th note. I absolutely love it. So the next thing to talk about, and is probably more important in this track than the bass actually, is all the melodic and sample layers. And for this type of music, for me it's really about lots of little motifs together, which you then piece together like a puzzle. So you don't always have to write like a nice long melody or melodic lead line. It's really about lots of little movements, and then you put all of them together in the arrangement to make the full track. So a lot of this tune was actually based around this piano patch that I made and different variations of it. And what it essentially is just a piano from Arturia V2 with lots of reverb and delay on it. Which is just a pretty standard piano sound, but the main thing is just sending it to a big reverb space, and also to a half note delay it's going to there. But then what I've done with this sound is I've taken Quick Sampler in Logic, and if you have this just on the default patch, it's actually a sine wave by itself. And I've got this chorusing in this lovely tal chorus and going to another big reverb again, and then I've stacked those two sounds together. Which is a really nice piano sound. So stacking multiple synths together is a way to get just a richer sound, really. So I essentially recorded me playing for a really long time, just messing around whilst the tune was rolling, and then I took all the best bits from that and bounced them out to audio. So I have these small motifs now. And I've put this one through a delay, and this one is just normal, and then I've just been layering these up bit by bit. So multiple layers, really all doing the same kind of thing, but some with delays on them, some have more reverb, some are playing slightly different notes. And I've really just been bouncing stuff to audio, and I think I was just stacking lots of different variations of me playing these sequences all on top of each other till I found something that sounded good. Another really classic technique is to make these glissandos, and this is essentially just swiping your keyboard across the keyboard. And this Arturia keyboard is so good because I can set it on the key of my track, which is E flat minor, and then whatever key I press is going to remain in the scale that my tune is in. And then I would have just gone on my my selection, and maybe even I think I was using rolling sampler quite a lot for this, and just playing. Playing lots of glissandos like that pretty at random, and then you can take this audio out and just chuck it back in your DAW to like a new audio track. If I just drag it to the bottom, and so I took lots of recordings like that of me just playing the piano. And one thing is these have got too much delay on them, so I probably would have taken the delay off, but then I took all of these things and I went right click, convert to new sampler track. And I essentially just made a patch with loads of different, if you can see here, I've got all these different recordings of me doing it. And so I can just trigger this now if I put my key on chromatic. One final element which I was very inspired by that Earl Grey tune was actually this decreasing chord sequence. Here I'm just playing like an interval of 2 notes at a time, just steadily going down, but with lots of delay on. It sounds really cool. And I've layered that one up again, actually in a whole different stack. So lots of layering going on, just to make things sound interesting actually, and not so lame and computerized. So bass can be a really tricky one, both to get the tone of the bass right and also to get the right notes. And here I've gone for quite a simple approach. And what I've really focused on is using a lot of octaves, playing the root note of my song. So my key is in D sharp minor, and so I'm playing a D sharp 3 and then I'm going to down to a D sharp 2. So I'm staying very kind of consistently with all the other harmonic things going on in the song. When I'm playing my root note, it's always going to sound good, and then I'm adding the little bits of interest and variation towards the ends of the bars. So you can see this is going on for 4 bars, and then I just have one little interesting bit. And this here is also using syncopation. So syncopation is like not having things hit dead on the beat. And so especially when you're doing a really simple kind of combination of notes, it's quite good to use syncopation to add something a little bit more interesting in the rhythm or the placement of those notes. So I've put this note a little bit off, and if I just play you this bit now. And it really just rolls around with that, with a few variations as the track progresses. And if we throw everything else in now, I just wanted this bass to not do too much. Similar to the drums, it just wants to support all the nice melodic things that are going on and not really do too much. The next thing to talk about is the vocal layers, and of course diva vocals are great places to look, and I love using Arcade, even though it's a little bit like cheating. This distant voices in Arcade just always gives me something good to use, but you have to kind of mess it up a little bit and put loads of reverb on it, maybe filter it and make it a little bit more unique. And one thing I've done here is taken this vocal out of Arcade, and then I've layered this same vocal but pitched it up 12 semitones. So you get this nice stacked vocal sound. And actually, quite funnily, even though the vocals sound really good in the track, I've really messed up some some vocals I've just taken from records and things like that. So if you listen to now, they sound awful, but in isolation. And what I've been doing these is banging them through an auto tune just turned up to max settings. So that's where all that weirdness comes from, but it really locks it dead to the key of your song. And it just kind of works in this song because everything doesn't have to be mixed to perfection, so you can get away with vocals like that. Okay, so the next thing to talk about is the effects, and this is actually a pretty big aspect of this type of music, and I think it fills in a lot of that ear candy and a lot of the interest in the track that's maybe missing if you don't have it. And first I want to promote my new sample pack that's coming out that's full of this kind of stuff, and it's really about all the ear candy, and I've based it around this aquatic underwater theme with dolphin sounds and scuttling noises and kind of water effects and nice chords and pads and all kinds of amazing stuff in there. So if you want to support my channel and you've liked my previous sample packs, then you can check that out on my website. But where this sample pack is really useful, and all the effects you hear in this song are actually from it, is for just filling in this space. And so I've got these kind of chords coming in here. So you can hear the cool thing here is I've gone for a bit of an aquatic theme with this song, and so all my effects layers as well as my textural layers are sticking within that theme, and that makes everything sound a little bit more cohesive when everything's built around the same sound palette. So the final thing to talk about is the arrangement, and I think the objective of a tune like this is actually to put people in a bit of a trance and just to have everything rolling along, and it's much more of a progressive style of tune which is about the evolution of the elements than it is about building up to a big drop or having this verse, chorus, more pop orientated arrangement. It's much more about building the track over its entirety, and you have a lot of time to play with. This was like nearly a 7-minute tune, and so you can just let all these elements roll out. And my favourite bit of this tune, and not saying that it's the best tune in the world, but the bit I find the most pleasing is in this second half where I kind of think I achieved that, and all the elements are working together nicely. They're all kind of playing and just ebbing and flowing, and I think this would be the perfect place to maybe finish this tutorial and just roll out with this section. So thank you very much for sticking with me, and I hope this is another interesting insight into Atmospheric Jungle. And I've got a few more vids delving deeper into this topic coming in the next couple of weeks. So I will catch you very soon in the next one, and that's all for me today. Peace.